Welcome back, everyone. So today we're going to be reviewing the Shimano Sienna 2500HG. This is a value inshore reel paired that I have currently with the Penn Squadron 3. So we've got a Penn rod with a Shimano Sienna. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about the reel than the rod. This is for sure a Sienna 2500 review. But I just do want to mention that any of you guys that are doing a lot of inshore fishing, I'm based down here in Florida where there's a lot of sea trout, redfish, snook, tarpon. On the smaller juvenile side and larger gator trout, stuff like that, this rod does an absolutely fantastic job. If you don't want to break the bank, Penn Squadron 3 and the Shimano Sienna is a fantastic way to get out on the water for a pretty cheap price. So let's jump into the Sienna 2500HG. Right off the bat, it's a very good looking reel. You've got a nice red glossy finish. It's almost like a chrome red, and every other component on the reel is a nice shiny chrome or a black, kind of like speckled glittered black metallic look. So it's very durable, very nice. One thing I will say about the Shimano Sienna, with the Shimano FX, it's a little bit more of a value reel than the Sienna is, but it's a lot lighter. This has a very heavy component to it. The Sienna really feels like it's made with heavy quality in comparison to some of these other value reels. Just by holding it and really using the reel in action, you can tell it's built with some nice and good materials. I've been using this Shimano Sienna strictly in salt water, and I have not seen a single sign of rust on these screw components that you'll see across the reel. With some of the cheaper Daiwa reels I've actually have seen some of those rust particles starting to build up on these screws. So I thought that was very cool. You know, I've definitely put this Sienna through the grinder. This is like a very throwable rod for me. Throw it in the kayak, you know, dump it on the sand, not a problem. The one thing you don't want to do when you buy the Shimano Sienna is submerge this underwater at any point. Many value reels, including this one, do not have seals. So if this is going to be submerged underwater, you definitely will get saltwater intrusion. And you don't even want to do that in a freshwater basis either. You want to make sure this is staying completely dry. Only when you're rinsing and cleaning it, you should get a downward pour of water. You don't really want to be splashing on the inside and drying up the grease and the bearings on the inside. So no seals on this affordable reel. The bearings on this reel feel very, very good. As you're reeling, it's got a very smooth, buttery feel. Fighting a fish on this is a very nice fight on the 2500. I personally like to feel a little bit of a kickback from the fish. I use this mostly for sea trout, and they're larger 18, 20-inch sea trout, and it's a super fun fight, especially when paired with the Penn Squadron 3. So highly recommend the combo itself, and as far as the Sienna goes, it is definitely worth the extra couple bucks from the Shimano FX, and in comparison to some of those value rods that you see, or I'm sorry, reels that you see on Amazon, just save a couple bucks and get a Shimano product. It's a huge night and day difference. So as far as the actual handle goes, it has a really cool feature where on a lot of reels this size, you actually see this handle comes out a little bit more kind of like this, where my pointer finger would be, is where you would be grabbing. So it's very compact when you're reeling in terms of where the handle is to where the spool is. So I find it very, I guess, ergonomic and convenient, especially if you're doing a lot of kayak fishing or compact fishing in the mangroves. You want to be as tight as possible and close as possible. It gives you a really good feel when you're reeling this close to the reel itself. It's a personal preference of mine. I think it's very sporty and nice. And then as far as the reel itself, Shimano came out with a statement on this specific reel saying they have something called propulsion line management. It's supposed to reduce the amount of wind knots and bird's nests that you get on a Shimano reel. And that's a really cool, I guess, feature to include in such a value reel. I have had, you know, very cheap reels in the past that I bought for my little brother, or just like little reels that we would use, you know, to mess around, nothing serious. And they would tend to get wind knots and bird's nests when you were to make far casts. So they do have that implementation in. I believe it's something along the way the line is spooled. When you first initially spool it, that's what my belief is. But it's called propulsion line management. You guys can look it up. I'm not too familiar on that topic. So back to the reel, they also have a super back stopper, which is basically what locks the handle from reversing. So one of my biggest pet peeves is reels that don't have that lock in place, and it could just free spool backwards like you're seeing here and cause a bunch of tangles. So when I'm fishing, the first thing I'm gonna do is lock this little switch that they have right there. It'll lock it into place, and it's another component that we have to fight a fish. If we have our drag a little bit loose, we can go ahead and pull back on this handle, and this little switch is gonna lock that in place, allowing us to get a little bit more pressure on the fish or to keep our line in place. I will never buy a rod that does, or I'm sorry, a reel that does not have that stopper. I find it extremely inconvenient, some of these value reels that don't include that stopper. So that's definitely a premium, I guess, addition for such a value reel to have. The stopper is huge, mostly for fighting a fish. You don't have to waste time putting your drag a little bit tighter. You could just lock into place and give it a little bit of energy instead of holding the reel directly on the spool to stop the line. All you have to do is lock the handle in place. So that's a super cool feature, especially for such a cheap product. Talking about the size, 2500 on the Shimano, it's definitely a really hardy reel, and it's capable of taking a pretty big workload. I would say if you're doing, really messy, large, flipping at docks for bigger fish, like those big snug, big tarpon where they're popping up on your mullet, this might not be the rod. But definitely if you're out on the flats, out in the Everglades, or you're doing any sort of flats fishing or even bass fishing, I think this is a fantastic setup. So you want to be in a free range area where you can really feel the fight. The fish can kind of swim out and take off like it is on the flats. You have no obstructions. This is definitely the rod for you. And the 2500 size really is meant for the fishermen that like to feel the fight, and they're not really in compacted zones like docks, mangroves, or marina style areas. So the 2500 is a great also beginner reel. You get to learn the components of Shimano without a very big, overwhelming reel to work with. It's definitely a very easy situation. We also have the reversible and ability to move the handle to the other side for those who are lefty and those who are righty. And as far as the overall value for the quality, I would say the Shimano Sienna, I've reviewed tons of reels in the past, including the Penn Fierce 3, the Penn Pursuit, and now the Shimano Sienna and the Shimano FX. I think personally the Shimano Sienna is the best bang for your buck that you could possibly get. I would personally not, after reviewing and using this product, I would not even think about the Shimano FX. For a couple more dollars, you get a completely different experience, and you feel the value here. You don't think that you're fishing with a cheap reel when you're using this. And the overall, I guess aesthetic appeal is really, really nice, especially with the chrome finishes and the black sparkle dust that they're putting on this, on the black components here. I believe this is graphite, or it's a type of very light plastic, and they're kind of giving it a powder coat with a beautiful black that you don't see very often on these value reels just like this one. Another, I guess, cool feature about the Shimano Sienna 2500 is how smooth the drag is. Some of these value reels, the drag seems like something very raggedy, almost like a blender. Like it's very stiff and stern when a fish is pulling on it. You don't think that the reel is doing any work for you. But the Shimano Sienna, every time I've hooked up to a nice trout or snook, it's an extremely smooth experience. And you kind of do forget that you're fishing with a very cheap value reel. Talking about pricing on the Shimano Sienna, we're looking at relatively anywhere from $45 to, excuse me, roughly $60. So the Shimano Sienna is obviously a budget reel. It kind of just depends where you're shopping. A lot of people recommend just going to Walmart instead of a Bass Pro or even your local vendor on fishing products. Mostly because, remember, this is a factory reel. It's going from the factory to the retail store. It doesn't make a difference whether you're buying it at a Bass Pro or a Walmart. You're getting the same reel. You're gonna wanna just fish around for the best price. Personally, I bought this at Walmart, and I believe at the time I had purchased it for $39.99, or I'm sorry, $49.99 at Walmart. The prices I have seen do fluctuate, so do your research, find a good retailer that has a good price on the Shimano Sienna. But for a $50 on average reel, you cannot beat the quality and experience that you get with this reel, especially when you're in action fighting a fish. Quick story, and we'll go ahead and wrap this up. But when I first purchased the Shimano FX, the first thing I did was went out to the Everglades, paddled out there, and started casting around, hooked up on a nice size sea trout, and I almost thought that the FX was gonna burn out. It was pulling a lot of line, I tightened the drag, everything in my power to keep this fish on the hook, and it just didn't feel like a smooth process when this fish was pulling out line. It almost felt like it was grinding gears as this line was being spooled out. You don't have that problem with this reel for, I believe, is $25 to $30 more. So you really want to do your research, look at a couple reviews before committing to one of these reels. But I think this is a great option for some of the more advanced fishermen that want a setup that they can just take in the kayak, beat up, throw in the sand, and not be worried about it. Or those amateur guys that just want to get a start with a cheap and easy reel. The Shimano Sienna is great for something like that. And before we leave, one of the things I do want to talk about is the importance for amateur fishermen that are just getting into the sport or hobby. You're going to want to find a reel. Everybody, whoever calls me who's just getting started, they always want to go for a combo setup where it's, let's say, a Daiwa rod and a Daiwa reel, or a Penn reel with a Penn rod. I find the best thing to do is do a little bit of homework, look at reviews, look at some videos, and find the cheapest available rod for the price. So where you're getting great quality, it's got pretty good reviews. It's not like you're gonna find a St. Croix rod for 25 bucks. That's not the goal here. But if you're just getting started into the hobby, you're gonna wanna find something that has great quality, and typically combo rod and reels are just not what it takes. A combo rod setup is typically a instant downgrade in experience. So I like to personally find the best value rod for the price along with the best value reel for the price and make that my combo. I don't think going with same brand rod and same brand reel, you're gonna experience the best of both worlds. As you get it a little bit more premium price, that kind of goes away. But when you're first starting off and you want to find, I guess, the best of both worlds, do your research, find a great rod for the price, and find a great reel for the price, and make that your combo. In this case, I wanted something very cheap that I could bang up, so I got the Penn Squadron 3, and I paired it with the Shimano Sienna 2500. It's an extremely light, versatile setup. I don't like to bring my St. Croix and Van Staal reels when I'm surf fishing or beating it up in the Everglades, where it's absolutely disgusting environment as far as the rod and reel cleanliness goes. So this is something that I would bring out there, and I'm not going to feel bad about beating it up, putting some scratches and denting things. So do your research. If you're just getting into the hobby, you're going to want to find a very compatible rod and reel setup, and that goes for size as well. 2500 should be paired with a light and short rod like the Penn Squadron 3. This is the 7-foot medium light, recommended for 6 to 12 pound mono, 6 to 15 pound braid, and so on. So to summarize, the Shimano Sienna 2500HG paired with a medium light setup is fantastic for anybody that wants to start in the hobby and is fishing open spaces away from heavy obstructions or very large fish as well. Guys, we're going to be giving away this exact setup. It's the Shimano Sienna 2500 with the Penn Squadron 3. Both will be brand new. It's actually being shipped here right now. Anybody who subscribes to this channel will be automatically entered in this giveaway, and we'll go ahead and ship this over to your address. We'll reach out directly to collect your information. Thanks for watching, guys, and we hope to see you again soon.